Hello and thanks for tuning in again. It was quite an interesting week. It was stressy again work-wise, but after having a plateau in weight loss last week, how will this week turn out as I am in my third week of my keto experience? So if you want to find out, stay with me for a few minutes, and until then, as always, I just say thanks for watching. Okay, let's start with my week and the effects of keto I witnessed this week. And one of the first things I did this week was joining my sister when she was picking up the urn of her little cat that passed away recently. And she didn't want to go there alone, so I took off a few hours from work and joined her. And on the way there, I have to say, we ran into a very interesting character who had a very entertaining pet, and he chose to bring this pet along when he was going for a ride with the train. Otherwise, these last 2 weeks were quite stressful, and I have to say it might have been 2 of the most stressful weeks I ever had at work. There was a lot of stuff to do, and I have to say that I have a feeling that keto helped me through it a little bit by making me a little bit more alert, giving me more ability to concentrate. I was less tired. I think those are all the effects of my diet, but I cannot be 100% sure, but I think so. However, there was a lot of stuff at work that also made me frustrated because not everything that I needed to do my work was delivered to me in time, and not every promise was held. So in those situations, I usually just decided to get out and take a walk because it doesn't help me to sit around frustrated. So this week, I was getting more steps in as usual. I had even one day where I had 10,000 steps, and that was the day where I also went with my sister to pick up the urn. But it also was the same day that when I came home, I was finding a lot of work that needed to be done, and I didn't have all the guidance I needed for it. So there was a lot of stuff that happened there. And the positive side as well is, of course, walking more around in this graveyard also made me run into an old friend again, my fox. And the funny thing is, I was passing by him and I was just seeing him brush through the bushes, and I was thinking, oh damn, I missed him. I was slowly following him to see what he is up to and hoping that I would see him. And I did see him far away in the distance. And when I walked a little bit after him and just wanted to find out where he was walking to, I saw him again vanishing in the bushes. And as that fox is quite a curious guy, he was following me a little bit. And when I turned around, I saw that he doubled back and was just standing there looking at me. And that way I had the closest encounter I ever had with a fox, and the most cute encounter of them all, and I didn't want to keep you from seeing it.
Du bist ein Süßer.
By the way, other effects of keto that might just be in my head but also might be true is that I think my skin is getting a little bit cleaner. You know, you might have noticed that my skin here and around my nose is sometimes very dry. I have the feeling that this is maybe getting a little bit better. It's still there, but apparently getting better. And also I think that I am rested more and have less problems sleeping through the night. So might be just in my head, but also might be true. And after I hit a plateau last week, of course, I was researching a little bit more about what might be the reason behind it. And one thing I found out is that you really have to take care of your protein intake as well. Because I only looked at my carbs intake to make sure it's under 30 grams per day. I didn't look at my protein intake, which I read up should be about 0.8 gram to 1.2 gram per kilogram of your ideal weight. So 0.8 if you are just sitting around and 1.2 if you are very active that day. And that would mean for me somewhere between 60 and 80 grams of protein per day, which is already reached if you just eat like 300 grams of meat, because meat usually has like 20 grams of protein per 100 grams. So that was quite a riddle for me, because with keto you are supposed to eat a lot of meat, and to get all the fat you also have to accept the protein, I guess. But if you are taking in too much protein, then your body will trick you again and says, okay, if you don't give me carbs, then I will just turn the protein into carbs if there is too much of them in your body. And that, of course, is something you also don't want if you are on a keto diet. So that is something I need to keep in mind, but I find another source that at least gave me a little bit of more realistic numbers and said, okay, you should take in about 1 gram of protein per day for each kilogram of your current weight. So that is something that makes more sense to me. But at the end of the day, you just need to keep track on if you are still in ketosis, and that is what I will do going forward. Another thing to keep in mind that I found out is the fact that you need to take care of your insulin amount in your body, how much insulin you have. Because insulin is basically stopping your body from burning fat and making the fat being deposited in your body. So that is why when you eat a lot of sugar, and sugar is creating a lot of insulin that is put into your body, that is the reason why that is turned into fat that is stored in your body instead of being burnt. And so when you are on keto, of course, you want your insulin amount to be quite low. And that is true because you don't have as much carbs. But if you are using sweeteners like in Cola Zero or other drinks that have sweetener in there that are also making your body put out insulin, then you are counteracting the effects that you are actually trying to reach with keto. So I'm trying to also cut down on those, especially if I may decide to stick with keto a little bit longer, because then it is a must-have to just tune out those drinks completely, because there are sweeteners like stevia and erythrit, which is not making your body put out insulin. So this is the stuff you should use, and that is the stuff I usually already are using, but unfortunately those drinks are not using them. Overall, what many people tell you is just to listen to your body, and that is also something that is true when it comes to calories, because a lot of times, or at the beginning at least, I was also looking at the calorie intake and didn't really pay attention on if I'm still hungry or not. And I have to say, and that is a positive effect of being in the keto diet, I am not as hungry anymore. And sometimes when I had like 2 pieces of meat and a little bit of small sausages to it as well, then I had to actually make myself finish the dish, and sometimes I even stopped and had the rest just later, because there I actually was listening to my body, and my body was telling me, okay, it's enough. And on some days you don't need to take in all those 2,000 to 2,500 calories. Sometimes you just will stay a little bit below. As long as you have enough fat, I guess it's okay, but even that you don't need to have every day. Just keep count of the carbs. That is the most important thing. If you're over the calorie count, also doesn't seem to be a big issue. Again, just listen to your body, and that is what I plan to do. And there is also a thing called the Skoldeman formula, where someone in Sweden who was diagnosed with being morbidly obese and maybe doesn't have much time left to live was just digging into the food that he really loves instead of just spending his last few days or weeks or whatever time he was told that he has with just eating stuff he don't like. And the stuff he ate was mainly fatty food and stuff like that. Basically, he was falling into a keto diet without even knowing it. And that way he was losing a lot of weight, getting healthier, and ended up surviving, which is a very positive story. But his formula he put out basically says, whatever you do, just try to have each meal per day with less amount of carbs and protein combined than fat. As an example, if you have a meal that has like 40 grams of fat, you should make sure that the carbs and the protein combined doesn't have more than those 40 grams. And the better the equation is, the healthier you might be. So the more fat you have and the less protein and carbs, the better. So that is what he is sharing with the world, and that is something that I try to also apply. Over the last few days I had an eye on it, and it seems to be pretty spot on for me as well. So what did I eat this week? It's usually the same as always, a lot of meat like you can imagine when you are in a keto diet. But I also try to bring in the bread I found with a 6.5 gram of carbs per 100 grams to make sure I have enough fiber and to have at least something different in the morning. And I try to mix it up there a little bit, even with having some scrambled eggs with bacon in it as a side dish. So that is what I planned there. And the bread, by the way, I figured out that due to the fact that protein bread is quite moist, it also gets moldy quite quickly. So I had it in a Tupperware box, and there it already was getting moldy after 2 or 3 days. So this time around I put it into a bread box, something that has a little bit of air circulation to make sure that it doesn't get moldy so fast. I hope that will work out fine. Otherwise, of course, I had a lot of cucumbers this week and tomato, but to make sure to stay within the limits per day of maximum of 25 to 30 grams of carbs, which is quite tricky and can be reached quite easily with vegetables, but you need to have some fibers and vitamins in there, so that is also what I try to keep track of. I also had a gyro pan with a side of salad, and the meat I bought in a supermarket, and I bought it mainly because it only had 0.5 gram of carbs per 100 gram, but I didn't pay attention to the fact that also the fat amount is quite low, and for that reason it was really dry, and I guess I will not buy that again. But it was at least nice to try something different there. So now finally let's get to my weight loss, and after having a plateau last week with 200 grams that I've gained, I'm happy to say that this week I lost weight, and I lost 1.2 kilogram, which is 2.6 pounds. And I also confirmed with the test stripes that I've ordered that I'm actually in ketosis, and I'm pretty much in the sweet spot right now. So everything is working as planned, which is a good thing. But thinking about the last few weeks, my explanation I have for how things went is basically this. Week 1 is just you losing a lot of water and a lot of weight, which I did in the first week, because you are getting rid of all the carbs, and the carbs are collecting water in your body. So once you lose those carbs, you also lose the water and you lose weight. And I hope you hear everything, because there of course is another plane overhead. But yeah, second week then I was getting into ketosis. My body was changing, because you're starting to burn fat, but also you take in more fat. So for that reason, I would say at the beginning you also gain a little bit of weight because you have more fat in your body. So that is the effect, I guess. But once your body chemistry has adjusted, then in week 3 you're actually losing weight, like I did. And that is exactly what should happen, and I hope that is something that also will happen in the next week. By the way, the wife of a good friend of mine, Neil's wife, was hearing me telling him about it, and in the background she says, that's exactly true. She knows a lot about those things, and I guess then I'm on the right track. So with that being said, I hope the next week will be great for you as well, like this week was for me. I hope I also will have another very successful week, and at the end of a week I will decide if I stay with it a little bit longer or if that is the end of this experiment. But so far it looks good, and if the next week will be along the same lines, I might stick with it a little bit longer. Even, like I said, it might be a little bit more complicated to do keto if you're out and about. Because cooking at home is easy, but eating in a restaurant and stuff, there keto might be a little bit more complicated to really stick under the 30 gram of carbs per day, but I will see. So with that being said, I hope your next week will be fantastic. You will reach everything that you like to reach. Everything that you set out to achieve will be possible. Until then, enjoy the weather as it should be getting better again. Hopefully not becoming a heat wave, as they said, but we will find out. Enjoy whatever you plan to do, stay healthy, and until then, as usual, I just say thanks for watching.